This podcast is brought to you by Radio 786.
In June this year, the Cape Town City Council approved key changes to its Municipal Planning By-law, unlocking new opportunities for small-scale rental housing. This reform supports a sector that delivers more affordable urban rentals than both public and private developers combined. The Human Sciences Research Council, along with the University of the Free State, conducted the research into how the rental of informal dwellings can be better managed and to ensure that renters and property owners are within the guidelines of the law. Let's now take a look at this particular matter with Professor Andreas Scheba, who formed part of the research team. He is an associate professor in the Centre for Development Support at the University of the Free State. Good morning and welcome, Prof.
Good morning, Tashrik, and thanks for having me.
How would you describe, maybe just to set the scene, the housing situation? Some would call it a crisis at the moment in South Africa.
Yes, I think crisis is a good word to describe the situation. So we, it's clear that our cities are growing. People are moving to the cities, which is good because they generally offer more opportunities, for economic development, for human development, etc. Providing adequate and dignified housing has been a growing challenge, obviously because of the historical legacy of apartheid. So we are talking about a housing, but also a segregation crisis, which is caused by also low incomes, high unemployment, high inequality, etc. We have seen a decline of the public provision of housing. At the same time, private sector housing has become increasingly unaffordable to the majority of the people. So their only options are really, informal settlements, backyard dwellings, or crowding in apartments or homes. So I think we definitely need to rethink our housing policies in practice, because housing is such a fundamental human and basic right that everyone should enjoy.
Okay, and that right, is complicated by a lack of, I suppose, I don't know. I know there's a plan and there are grants to this effect to deliver houses, but that's done in a very sometimes haphazard way, and you have scenarios in which low income cost housing is done with some serious concerns about design flaws and quality, etc., and nowhere even gets to touch really the extent to which this crisis is confronting us at the moment. So is there an understanding about the shortfall and the way to begin to address that shortfall?
Yes, I think we know that there is no single solution. So you need to tackle the housing and segregation crisis with various instruments, different tools, different mechanisms, which need to be different also in the various areas of our cities. Again, we at the HSRC, we have done different research projects looking at social and affordable housing, looking at informal land and building occupations, also looking at small-scale rental housing and backyard rental housing. And by looking at the numbers, backyard rental and small-scale rental is really providing a lot of the affordable accommodation in our cities, also in Cape Town. So it's one of the sectors that is vital for people and for the housing sector, and it has been there for decades, and we have seen enormous growth in backyard rentals, also significant transformations, so away from rudimentary shacks and makeshift structures towards higher quality brick and mortar flats and those micro flats. Some neighborhoods have seen a lot of growth of even double, triple story apartment blocks and flats. So it's homeowners and micro developers who are investing in delivering rental accommodation that is affordable to working class and poorer families. Until now, government has largely neglected the sector. People have built informally without complying to regulations, etc. Government has also not provided adequate support to the sector. So we have been arguing for a couple of years now that we need to appreciate the benefits of the sector, the vital contribution it makes to housing in our cities, and that we need to engage the sector more constructively, because there are also risks and challenges involved that we need to tackle together in order to maximize the benefits that it provides.
Okay, let's and I'm going to come to the sort of models that are being contemplated in regards to what is understood to be small-scale rental housing. But I want to just, as we talk about the inequality of housing, in metropolitan cities like Cape Town, for instance, you have lots of contesting factors. You have urbanization that is a factor to consider when there aren't much homes available, and these are people that, to begin with, are looking for work and for better opportunities, and so being able to afford to get access to the market will be proven to be quite challenging. It's even more challenging, well, not more, but it is also challenging for others that want to still get into the property market but are unable to do so based on how expensive property has become in the city of Cape Town. And I look at very many reactions on social media and elsewhere where people are really lamenting the extent to which property has boomed in Cape Town. It's become quite lucrative. That makes it seriously unaffordable. And so I wonder whether that is something that you think can be controlled or not, because I know I'm going a bit long here with this question, but I just want to juxtapose it with an interview that was given by the City of Cape Town's Mayor Jordan E. Lewis to the Daily Maverick, in which he says that job creation and tourism is a key focus of the City of Cape Town, and if people are moving here to live here and drive up property pricing, then so be it. This is the cost of the new way of life. And so I wonder then, whether a city like Cape Town must do more to control the extent to which the market is unfolding at the moment, or is this really just, the way things are based on capitalist forces?
Yeah, I think, we need to shape markets in order to serve public goods and public benefits. So I don't think, it has to be either or, economic growth, jobs, or inclusive neighborhoods. We have cities all over the world who are implementing progressive housing and urban policies in order to achieve affordable housing, access to adequate housing, and at the same time inclusive economic growth. Again, the question is, what kind of economic growth do we want to achieve? What kind of neighborhoods do we want to create in our cities? What kind of housing do we want to provide? There is a clear moral justification also in cities like Cape Town that have endured so much violence and dispossession and segregation. It's in all of our policies, spatial integration and transformation are key objectives that government has committed to. I think there are tools available like an inclusionary housing policy, inclusionary zoning, but also the release of public land for social and affordable housing that some of the city has kind of agreed to and taken up, and there is I think willingness to, for example, release more public land for social housing, which would make a big difference. Progress has been too slow. We need to move faster in implementing. The inclusionary zoning would allow for private developments to also include affordable units. Again, the question is how affordable and for whom, and the scale that will be delivered is not enough to solve the housing crisis, but it would contribute to making neighborhoods more accessible and affordable. So I think we need to think harder about how an inclusionary zoning or housing policy can be implemented. I also think we need to look at how can we regulate Airbnbs and, in a nuanced approach that we recognize people use Airbnb for different purposes, but if it's purely used as an investment and for maximizing profit, I think we need to intervene. And I think successful cities, livable cities in the world, they do intervene and shape property markets because it's not just about development at all costs. It's about creating integrated neighborhoods where poor and rich can actually live together and share the spaces together.
Yeah. Okay, let's pivot to the issue around small-scale rental housing. Maybe just define for us what small-scale rental housing is and why it is proving to play such a vital role in Cape Town's housing ecosystem.
So by small-scale rental housing, we basically mean, rental accommodation that is delivered on an existing plot or existing earth. A common term is backyard dwellings. Although backyard dwellings, we often think about, the backyard shacks and the Wendy houses, etc. With small-scale rental housing, we refer more to the brick and mortar structures and those micro flats that we have really seen coming up quite a lot in our, townships and urban areas in the city in more recent years. And it plays a vital sector because, again, it's homeowners and micro developers who are investing in delivering small-scale rental housing. It's really rapidly growing in most of our townships. It's affordable in the sense that, prices can range from 500 Rand up to 2,500 Rand maybe per month, depending on the size and location. And it contributes to densification, which is also a key objective. Cape Town is growing. We can't keep extending the size of Cape Town, and we need to reduce urban sprawl and need to, kind of come to a more compact and higher density city.
But does having opportunities like this available, does it not contribute to greater urbanization? Because then what you have are opportunities that are small scale, potentially more affordable, to those that want to get, for instance, into Cape Town, because the prospects of perhaps landing a job in Cape Town is a lot better than some other places. And so you then have, scenarios where, it's a very lucrative way to be able to try and survive while trying to make a living and an income.
Yeah, so there is a lot of demand for rental accommodation, right? As we have already discussed, the formal market is not accessible. The government housing program is not delivering a lot of units. So you have people, they need rental accommodation, which is now provided. Some of it is provided by individual homeowners, and it really helps them to generate income and is a vital source of their livelihoods. Some of it is rented out to their own kids and children and relatives, and some of it is rented out more as a business. But again, it's it's providing such a vital function of delivering affordable rental accommodation. And again, we have seen an improvement in the quality of the dwellings. So, away from really overcrowded sites and properties where there's risks of fires and other hazards, towards more higher quality, very nice micro flats, especially also in areas that are closer to transport nodes, that are closer to economic opportunities. And I think, we need to encourage, we need, a lot of different options for people to live in cities: ownership, cooperative, communal, government housing, but also rental housing is a vital tenure option that needs to be promoted because it allows for flexibility. It allows for people to stay in Cape Town and see whether they can make it here or move elsewhere. Again, it allows them to move between neighborhoods or generate savings and then maybe get into the ownership market. So this is a vital step and segment in our housing sector, and that's why we have argued for years that we need to support it better.
We are talking at this time to Professor Andreas Scheba, who's formed part of the research team looking into the research done by the Human Sciences Research Council along with the University of the Free State. They've looked into how the rental of informal dwellings can be better managed to ensure that renters and property owners are within the guidelines of the law. Are they not within the guidelines of the law at the moment, Prof? What is the framework for how they ordinarily operate and the way that business transaction would occur?
Yes. So until recently, most of the flats that were built did not comply with the planning legislation. Planning is an important municipal responsibility. It guides land use, what you can build on your plot, etc. And people have built small-scale rental housing, but they did not apply for planning approval or building plan approval. And in our research that we did together with the Development Action Group, who have also really been active in that space, and other stakeholders, we showed how complicated and how costly and how time-consuming it actually is to comply with the municipal regulations. And also based on our calculations, we showed that it could double the price of the costs of development if you want to do everything according to the book. So then we recommended some of the reforms that could be implemented to make it easier and to kind of regularize and formalize the sector, also to mitigate some of the risks. And one of the things that we highlighted was to reform the planning legislation, which means that you should be allowed to build a certain number of rental units on your plot without having to apply for planning approval. And that's what the city now did with the latest reform in June, which came into effect in September this year, where people who have properties in the 194 areas that were designated have now the right to build up to 8 rental flats. They call it affordable rental flats on your property, or even up to 12 if you don't have a main dwelling on your property. So you are allowed to build those affordable rental flats without having to apply for planning approval. But you still need to apply for a building plan approval. But it already reduces the time and the costs involved in doing things formally.
Yeah. Okay. What are the compliance issues at play here, aside from our building requirements? Because I'm certain there are certain standards by which, if you are building on top of your own dwelling, if you're building sort of what's often called as a separate entrance, as we now know with the city of Cape Town and some of the guidelines and the law being a little bit more flexible to allow for that to take place, those that do pursue it in the businessy side of things, the arrangement with a tenant, for instance, and the way that happens. Obviously, I think some people have become a little bit more wise to have a contract in place. There are still some challenges about the dynamic between, those that rent and the tenant, as it were. Is there one cogent system or way within which that relationship exists? Does it require some sort of regulatory framework, to be able to determine the powers of each of the parties? Because that oftentimes is quite a troublesome scenario if, of course, you do have issues that emerge between, tenant and those that are renting. So does that entire system, does it require regulation?
It's difficult to regulate, those dynamics that are largely informal. So in our research, we have found a mixed picture. Often landlord and tenants, they had quite a good relationship. They were in contact with each other via WhatsApp or face to face, and they were able to address conflicts either with the neighbors or between the landlord and tenants. And I think there is also a role to play, for local street committees and local community leaders, etc., to help address conflicts. But there's some did have contracts, especially the higher quality rental flats and the more professionalized developments. The landlords came with contracts that they wanted tenants to sign, where also the rights and responsibilities were clearly laid out. But often it was just an informal and verbal agreement. We do have the rental housing tribunal, where people can go to, even if it's an informal arrangement, even if you live in a backyard dwelling, you can go there and lodge a complaint, and they can help you to address any conflict you may encounter. Um, but I think it obviously would need a lot of capacity to monitor and enforce. But we do have the rental housing tribunal. That is one state institution where tenants and landlords can go to complain.
All right. Is this approach with small, rental options, or at least, as it stands, the way in which we now contemplate the small-scale rental housing market, is that the saving grace at the moment for those that are wanting to not only get into the property market, but also those that want to find a place to live? It's just like in Cape Town, when there isn't a lot of opportunity, and property is so expensive at the moment that, is this in part the saving grace for now, at least, for a property market that is not within reach for a whole lot of people?
Again, there's no single solution. I mean, small-scale rental housing is one sector that is already providing a lot of accommodation. So it's, people are doing it, people are renting. It also provides other benefits like income generation, economic development, etc. Also stimulates economic activities, in construction. You need architects and financial services, etc. So it does come with a lot of benefits, but it needs to be managed, because there are also trade-offs. If you over-densify neighborhoods, if you just put too many rental accommodations and flats in a single neighborhood, then you create issues around overburdening public infrastructure. Are there enough schools in the area? Are there enough clinics? Are there enough parks? Do you have good waste removal and urban management in the services? We have seen in some of our areas, population has grown 4 times because of small-scale rental accommodation. So that comes with a lot of pressures. And again, in our research, we highlight different areas where we think, government and other stakeholders need to intervene, ranging from planning reforms to building regulations changes to urban management, to kind of development finance, so that micro developers have better access to development finance, to landlord-tenant relationships, etc. So it's a complex sector that needs cooperation between government, communities, and NGOs and civil society. You need to co-create a new approach towards the sector. It also needs a lot of collaboration between government departments. So a key issue is really infrastructure investments, especially in areas where you see a lot of growth of rental accommodation. You need to improve and upgrade the infrastructure so that we can cater for the higher densities. And we also need to look at how can we create neighborhoods that are vibrant and dynamic. So you don't just want to have rental units everywhere, but you want to have, businesses and shops and high streets and more mixed-use developments, and at the same time open spaces. So this is really about, managing densification that is happening informally, bottom up through individual actions. And we need, as I said earlier, you can shape markets in order to provide public benefits. And I think that's another way where government needs to come onto board. And the city of Cape Town has done some of it, but much more is needed.
Okay. Thank you very much for having joined us this morning. That Professor Andreas Scheba, who formed part of the research team at the University of the Free State, together with the Human Sciences Research Council, into the small-scale rental market that has seen some movement in recent years.
This podcast is brought to you by Radio 786.